How you doing? Welcome on in. The weather feels fine. He's Blaine McCormick. I'm Troy Lynch. Welcome into House of Sparky's Arizona State football show. Blaine, Arizona State on a bye week last week. Hope you got your beauty sleep because we got a packed show today.
I sure did get some sleep. And speaking of beauty sleep, let's look at some of these beautiful highlights. To Stanford University we go for the Innovation Bowl. Sun Devils Cardinal as Bryce Love finds a gap and runs with it, shakes off an ASU defender, and goes in for the 61-yard rushing touchdown. You'll be hearing his name a lot more in these highlights because he had quite the game. Sun Devil quarterback Manny Wilkins dropping back, passing it, and tip drill. Find it, fellas. And the Cardinal does as they get the ball out of the air for the interception. That's Wilkins' first interception on the year, and that leads to a Stanford touchdown. And who else but Bryce Love running out of formation, and he just breaks away 43 yards out. He had 2 touchdowns in the first half and nearly ran out of his shoes, but KJ Costello spreading the love as he finds JJ Arcega-Whiteside for the 12-yard passing touchdown, 21-10 Stanford at this point. And then wide receiver N'Keal Harry out of the Sparky formation says, hey, I can do that too. Finds CJ Frenchlove for the touchdown, 21-17 Stanford at this point. And then let's take you to the third quarter. Who else but Bryce Love finding the gap and running away with it, this time from 59 yards out, 31-17 Stanford. And Troy, I'm not really sure if you like candy by chance, but this ASU defense seems to love Butterfingers. They could not take down Bryce Love in this one. 301 yards for him in the game, broke a Stanford rushing touchdown for a single game, previously held by Christian McCaffrey, and then that run sets up this 22-yard field goal by Jet Toner, seals the deal. Arizona State 24, Stanford 34. Well, you saw the highlights. It pretty much consisted of Bryce Love in that game alone. So we bring in who we love on this show, Max Madden, one of our analysts from houseofsparky.com. I want to ask you about Bryce Love. Let's talk about him a little bit. How good is he in reality?
Well, a lot of people are talking about the 301 yards that he amassed total in that game, but not a lot of people are talking about the 175 he gained after initial contact. That is, mesmerizing as it gets on the offensive side for Bryce Love. He broke 12 Sun Devil tackles. I mean, that is pretty unheard of. He's patient, he's powerful, and he just brings the entire package to the table.
So you mentioned the defense in that one. Bryce Love just slipped out of the hands of the secondary and also all the linebackers that were trying to tackle him as well. 301 yards on the game for him. What steps can the Sun Devils take from that game and apply them to the Washington game that's coming up today? Because there's a lot of good players on this team, Max.
Yeah, they don't only have a good running back in Myles Gaskin, they have a very efficient quarterback in Jake Browning. He's completing nearly 71% of his passes, 1,500 yards through the air so far this season. He's very efficient. So what you have to do against quarterbacks like that, pressure, pressure, pressure. There's no Karan Crump, so it's going to be a little bit difficult. But guys like Rennell Wren, guys like Tayshawn Smallwood, they're really going to have to step up.
Now, coming off of this game, ASU came off of a bye week last week, so now they're all rested and recovered. And I heard you have a guy in mind that's coming back for this game, but in a kind of a different role.
Well, I think a lot of Sun Devil fans have this guy in their mind. It's John Humphrey. He is possibly going to be used a little bit on defense, but either way, he's going to be likely on both sides of the ball, and they needed that deep threat down the field. It hasn't worked out so well with Frank Darby, and Kyle Williams fills a pretty specific role on the outside and rotating around, but John Humphrey comes back. He adds a deep ball element that Manny Wilkins desperately needs.
So Humphrey coming off of his injury from week 2 against San Diego State, and tonight's game you can catch on at 7:45. He's Max Madden. Thanks for being here, Max.
Absolutely.
Well, we were just discussing it on the show a little bit ago, but it's been the same story for the past couple of years for the Sun Devils. Solid offense, but the defensive back needs some work. In 2016, ASU gave up 338 yards to Jake Browning and the Washington wide receivers. In an attempt to make sure that doesn't happen again, ASU defensive coordinator Phil Bennett is attempting to have wide receiver John Humphrey play on both sides of the ball. It's funny because when Bennett was at Baylor, he was recruiting Humphrey to be a corner. But Humphrey had other plans and he went to Oklahoma. However, they both found their way to Arizona State, but Humphrey is still listed as a wide receiver. But with the injuries and struggles that come with the secondary, Bennett is utilizing Humphrey's athleticism to help the defensive backs. Arizona State hosts the number 5 Huskies on Saturday, and this will be Humphrey's first game back since he injured his leg in week 2 against San Diego State. Humphrey hasn't played defense since high school, which was back in 2015. But it's going to be a difficult week to start experimenting for ASU, having to go against the best team in the Pac-12. Earlier this week, Bennett commented on why Washington is so good, and this is what he had to say.
You know, they're very balanced. You look at them and you look down the line, it's 50% run, 50% pass. You've got to really look hard to feel like you can get a beat on something that they're doing. You know, so... And you know, it's very similar, not that it's going to happen this way, but sort of what we thought about Oregon, you know, when they came in there. You know, the teams they played and how we match up, you know, with them and those things.
Well, you just heard from Phil Bennett. He's usually a pretty positive guy, always on the sidelines yelling at his team, trying to make them their best. Now we go into our best segment, I think, on the show today. It's pros and cons with Troy and I. Troy, I'm going to take the cons for today.
Sounds good.
Little negativity here, but they have to play Washington.
Yeah.
And Washington is pretty good at this point. Very highly ranked in the AP poll, plus they have to face off against Jake Browning. Max kind of mentioned it earlier, how good of a quarterback he is, highest in QBR with the standings in the Pac-12. It's going to be a tough task for him, so I don't know how they're really going to combat this good of a quarterback.
It's going to be a tough task for sure, but my first pro is going to be, well, Arizona State, they're coming off of a bye week, and I think that's the perfect time, especially when you're going up against the best team in the Pac-12. They had an extra week to watch some film, watch how Washington does some things, and you never know what might happen. Film is very important when it comes to football.
And this is kind of an inconvenient game for the Sun Devils because at this point in the season, you don't want to go on a losing streak. They're already 2-3. They just lost to Stanford a couple of weeks ago. Now they have to face off against one of the best teams in the nation. It's a tough schedule to have in the Pac-12 in general, but when you're facing the Washington Huskies in your 5th game of the season, excuse me, it's tough.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough, but the best team in the Pac-12, that's why you got to put your best players out on the field, and that's what Arizona State's going to be doing. John Humphrey's back, going to be a key factor on offense. However, playing on both sides of the ball, you don't think he can play defense? I think he can. This guy's so athletic, he can do literally anything when it comes to football. He could probably kick, we just don't even know it. But John Humphrey, I think he can line up with any of the Washington wide receivers and give them a run for their money.
These receivers are going to be tough for this ASU secondary, though, and we saw that they didn't perform up to their expectations a couple of weeks ago against Stanford. They do have Humphrey coming in there, but they're still not at the point where the Sun Devils need to be, and they're facing off against Jake Browning. Once again, I'm going to mention him once again because he's such a good talent. 14 passing touchdowns for him, over 1,400 yards on the season. We're not even halfway done, Troy.
Okay, I understand, but however, this will be my last pro. We're going to end it on a good note.
Sounds
yes,
good.
Jake Browning, he's off the hook, all right? Watch out for that guy. However, Washington hasn't played anybody legit yet.
That's true.
They're 6-0. 5th best team in the nation. I'm not taking anything away from what they have done. However, let me list the teams. Rutgers, Montana, Fresno State, Colorado, Oregon State, Cal. Nobody was in the top 25. The first 3 games were the easiest wins you could probably pick up. And then all the other Pac-12 teams that they were playing, they're bottom of the barrel when it comes to just overall performance. So Arizona State, I honestly think that they can surprise some people. They just have to get started fast, and their offense really needs to put up some big numbers. But that's going to be it for pros and cons. Before we go, the biggest pro of the week. Let's zoom in on Blaine McCormick's tie. Come on, lift it up.
Let's
that is an alpaca, ladies and gentlemen. How do you get that?
So this one was actually given to me by my girlfriend. She went to Peru over the summer, and this is an actual Peruvian hand-sewn tie that's made out of alpaca fur.
It's actually made out of alpaca.
It's actually alpaca. So there's an alpaca on here. It's made out of alpaca. I'm alpacking loving it, dude.
No matter what the score is of the Washington ASU game, Blaine comes out a winner this week.
Thanks, folks.
But that's it for pros and cons. We're going to send it over to Julian Padas with Around the Pac-12.
Thanks, guys. And once again, it's been a great week for football, and we have some topics to cover. So without further ado, let's start off with Arizona sophomore QB Khalil Tate, who was looking more like a running back, trailblazing the Colorado Buffs with 4 rushing touchdowns. He ran for 208 yards, and on top of that, Tate also averaged 52 yards per score. Tate also threw for 12 of 13, which included a nice little bonus of an extra 154 passing yards and a touchdown. The Wildcats were victorious over Colorado with a final score of 45-42. Moving on, the Cardinals showed hustle and grit on the defensive end. And if Stanford junior Justin Reed isn't the definition of a safety, I don't know what is. Reed solidified himself as a challenge against the then undefeated number 20 ranked Utah Utes as he collected his 5th interception of the year and his 4th interception in Stanford's last 3 games. The final score was 23-20, making the Cardinal move up to 4-2 on the season. Next up, whatever the coaching staff is doing up in Washington, it's working. Whether it be the Washington State Cougars or the Washington Huskies, both teams are getting it done. The number 11 ranked Cougars got the win in Oregon last Saturday as quarterback Luke Falk passed for 282 yards and 3 touchdowns, dropping the Ducks to 4-2 with a final score of 33-10. The number 6 ranked Huskies limited Cal to 93 yards and 0 offensive points with a stellar defensive effort resulting in a 38-7 victory over the Bears. Both teams remain undefeated and continue to bulldoze through competition. Only time will tell just how long both teams can keep up the momentum. That concludes Around the Pac-12, and with that being said, I'll send it back to Blaine at the desk.
Thanks, Julian. This week's feel-good story begins on a somber note. Just before the Stanford game, ASU offensive coordinator Billy Napier's father, Bill Napier, passed away. He was 60 years old. Bill battled Lou Gehrig's disease for 4 years and was a well-respected high school football coach in Georgia. After reuniting with his family, Billy then flew 6 hours to be with the Sun Devils as they faced the Cardinal in Palo Alto. There's no questioning that losing a loved one is a difficult time for anybody, and for Napier to come coach after losing his own father, there's a lot of respect to be held. Football runs through the Napier family, as Billy's 2 brothers have also followed in their father's footsteps as football coaches. There's always going to be tough times in one's life, but the perseverance of Napier is why he is our ASU Feel-Good Story of the Week.
Thanks so much, Blaine. That was a really touching story about Billy Napier and his father, but Billy Napier and his offense are really going to have to step up this week against the number 5 Huskies. That's why we bring in Josiah Destin to break down some film for us. Now, Josiah, this Husky offense is no joke. Jake Browning, once again, on fire. Almost 1,500 yards through the air, 14 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and the Huskies, the number 1 team in the Pac-12 regarding pass efficiency. Why has Jake Browning been so effective?
Yeah, Troy, you mentioned that pass efficiency. Browning, he's number 1 in the Pac-12 in QBR right now, but, even though he doesn't miss much, at the same time, he's able to scramble out, and he's able to make some plays on his own. So let's take a look at Browning right now, what he really can do. He gets a little combusted up here. There's guys going all around him, but he sees some room. And with this room, there's 3 wide receivers. They turn into blockers. And so he's able to use the guys around him. He looks like he's going to run, but instead of running, he passes. That's an acrobatic pass. 1 leg, just really doing it on his own. But is it a touchdown? Let's take another look.
That's close.
Yep, there's Browning. That's a touchdown. So, Troy, really, Browning, he's able to just make plays on his own, but this one, he stays in the pocket, uses his receivers. So he's got 3 guys lined up here to his right side. 2 of them are man-to-man coverage. Now, the guy at the top of your screen, Hunter Bryant, look at the space he's got. Nobody there. And that arrow, he's going to go right into that, right into the space. So, Browning, he's locked in on his one guy. It's not beautiful, but he's able to get him there. He knows where the space is, leaving these guys with question mark.
So what it looks like is the Washington offense, they really pick away at any defense that really opposes them. But the Washington defense, they are no joke. Number 1 rushing defense in the Pac-12. Number 2 passing defense in the Pac-12. How is ASU supposed to line up with this defensive line that's only given up 471 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns to opposing running backs?
I mean, Troy, I'm really not sure how they're supposed to line up with that type of caliber team.
Right?
I mean, look at Washington. They've got 20 sacks on the season, 8 last game against Cal. That's top 10 in the nation. And, let's just start looking at this film right now. I mean, Washington, they've got 5 guys lined up. It looks like they're bringing all of them, especially these 3 linebackers, on Bowers, the Cal QB, but they're really going back. This guy at the top of your screen, Rapp, he's the guy to look at, Tyler Rapp, the safety. And he starts coming in, and what this causes is a bunch of congestion up at the top of your screen of the line, making room for Bowers on the left, but what he doesn't see are these 2 defensive linemen who are coming. That's Vita Vea, who's going to be able to squeeze in and get the sack. And there he goes. Come up, celebrate, and I mean, really, it's just Washington's defensive line. They've got these shifting around things that they do that really just make it special. Another play that we're going to look at are, only 3 guys rushing the passer. It looks like straight pass. It's 2nd and 2. And Jalen Johnson is the guy at the bottom of your screen to watch. So he's going to come up here and make a play. Bowers hikes the ball. Johnson, he's got one-on-one. But what he sees here is enough space to come all the way across your screen there up to the top side, and it just uses athletic ability. He's 298 pounds. He's not 340 like the other big guys, and he really just uses his speed to his advantage, gets it right there, and then the celebration and the pose.
Yeah, and it seems like Washington, obviously, we know they're the best team in the Pac-12, still undefeated, 6-0. I'll keep this last question short and simple. Does ASU even have a chance?
I mean, the Sun Devils, they do. I'm gonna be realistic here. As long as the offense performs the way it has been. I mean, Arizona State only scored 24 points before. They scored 42 against Texas Tech. 37 against Oregon State. Against Oregon. If the Sun Devils can get at least 40 points, I think they have a chance. It's something they haven't done much this season. But Arizona State's defense has let up 30 points. More than 30 points per game. If they could hold Washington around that and then score 40, they got a chance.
Well, cue the Jim Carrey meme because there is a chance. ASU Washington, that's happening Saturday night at 7:45. Drew Sy, thanks again for coming on to the show. You can catch more of his work on houseofsparky.com. And now on to our Pac-12 top plays of the week. Luke Falk and the Washington State Cougars dumping it off to Jamal Marl. Get off me. I'm the gingerbread man. You can't catch me either. 41 yards. That was the first play of the game for the Cougars, and they went on to beat the Ducks 33-10.
And Troy, I gotta ask you, do you like In-N-Out?
Love In-N-Out.
Because Hunter Bryant likes it animal style. He takes it in and out of Josh Drayton's hands for the touchdown. Thought Drayton had the interception, but no way, Jose, says Bryant as he gets the ball. UW beats Cal 38-7 in this one.
And our top play of the week, or should I say our top performance, belongs to University of Arizona's Khalil Tate, breaking the FBS record for most rushing yards in a game by a quarterback. 327 yards on the ground on only 14 carries. Blaine, insanity. 5 total TDs for Tate, and U of A went on to beat Colorado 45-42. Now, Blaine, so many records being broken in the Pac-12 this year, but I have to say your alpaca tie breaks the record for coolest tie on the planet. Disagree with me, I dare you.
Well, thank you, Troy. I appreciate that. You know what the good news is? The season's not done either, and my tie collection, it ain't done either. So
I cannot wait for future shows.
Oh, man, it's going to be a good one. But one thing I cannot wait for is the Sun Devils taking on the Huskies tonight. You can catch it at 7:45. That's first kickoff. But for us here at houseofsparky.com, we're all done for the day. He's Troy Lynch. I'm Blaine McCormick. Make sure to catch all of our content on houseofsparky.com. You know the drill. Follow us on all of our social medias. Once again, good night, folks.